So welcome to this e-learning module. Today we are going to discuss about congenital tracheoesophageal fistula. Now this tracheoesophageal fistula is of two types. One is congenital type and another is acquired type. Today we will be focusing on this congenital tracheoesophageal fistula. So before going to the detail, we have to understand the embryology of the development of trachea and esophagus. So the trachea and esophagus are formed by the splitting of the primitive foregut, which occurs around the fourth week of intrauterine life. As you can see, there is a primitive common upper digestive and respiratory tract, and around fourth week of intrauterine life, it starts splitting. So there is formation of lung bud, then there is formation of trachea, and there is a septum in between, which is known as tracheoesophageal septum, and further it completely splits and esophagus and the trachea is formed. So if there is an abnormality during this process of splitting, so it leads to the development of tracheoesophageal fistula. So regarding the etiology, it is the cause of the tracheoesophageal fistula is till date unknown, and it is often seen that the tracheoesophageal fistula, that is congenital type, is associated with a part of Vater or Vectrial association. We will discuss in detail what is this Vater and what is this Vectrial, but it is seen that the tracheoesophageal fistula is commonly associated with Vater and Vectrial. So the incidence of tracheoesophageal fistula is about 1:3000 to 1:4500 live births. So what is this Vater and Vectrial? We have to understand that. So Vater means that is vertebral, anorectal, tracheoesophageal and renal anomalies. So all these combinedly they are associated. So if there is a tracheoesophageal fistula, then always look for vertebral, anorectal and renal anomalies. There are obviously associated comorbidities. Similarly, the Vectrial is vertebral, anorectal, cardiac, tracheoesophageal, renal and limb abnormalities. So as per the classification is concerned, there are 5 types of anomalies which are recognizable: type A, type B, type C, type D and type E. So type A, as you see, that is esophageal atresia is there, but without any tracheoesophageal fistula. There is no fistula is there, but only a part is atretic. This is esophageal atresia. This is type A. In type B, there is esophageal atresia with a proximal tracheoesophageal fistula. So there is an atresia and proximal there is fistula. In type C, there is an esophageal atresia with a distal tracheoesophageal fistula. It is seen in about 84% of the cases. In type D, there is esophageal atresia with proximal and distal tracheoesophageal fistula. And in type E, there is tracheoesophageal fistula without any esophageal atresia and is also known as H type. As you can see, it is an H shaped. Some authors mark it as an N shaped also, but in most of the books it is H shaped. So these are the 5 types of tracheoesophageal fistula. Now out of these 5 types, the type C, that is the esophageal atresia with distal tracheoesophageal fistula, it is the most commonest variety and it is seen in about 84% of the cases. Now what happens in this condition is that the saliva starts collecting in this upper pouch, and once a sufficient amount of saliva is deposited in this upper pouch, it may spill over into the trachea. It may spill over into the trachea, which may lead to aspiration pneumonia. So this is the first pathogenesis. So the saliva may spill over the trachea, goes to the lung, there is aspiration pneumonia. Moreover, the inspired air is partly shunted into the stomach. It is partly shunted into the stomach through the fistula, and it causes the distension of the stomach. So there is a distension of the stomach. Now this gastric distension leads to the reflux of the acid contents of the stomach through the trachea into the lungs causing chemical pneumonia. So this is the basic pathogenesis. You have to remember that out of the 5 types, the type C is the most commonest form and seen in 84% of the cases. So there is chances of aspiration pneumonia. So there is chances of aspiration pneumonia, chemical pneumonia. So let us discuss about what are the clinical features of this tracheoesophageal fistula. Now, the antenatally there may be polyhydramnios, especially in those babies with pure atresia without fistula. So there may be antenatal polyhydramnios. And the frothing of the saliva, as you see in the figure, there is frothing of the saliva. It is the most characteristic feature due to the air bubbling through the collected salivary secretions in the pharynx. So there will be, if the baby is inadvertently fed, there may be vomiting will be there, and abdominal distension is also a prominent feature, except in type A, where the abdomen is scaphoid. The type A is the only there is atresia, but no fistula is there. That is type A. So in the type A, there will abdomen will be not distended; it will be scaphoid. But in other all the types, there will be distension of the abdomen. It may be associated with cyanosis, maybe due to the concomitant cardiac anomalies or pneumonitis. And as we have discussed, there are associations of vector and vectorial. So there may be vertebral, anorectal, cardiac, tracheoesophageal, renal, and limb defects. A baby with an H fistula usually presents late. Uh, the baby may choke during fits, excessive vomiting. There is gross aerophagia and recurrent pneumonia. So there is a diagnostical clinical test which can be used to diagnose the case of tracheoesophageal fistula, except one type, that is H type of fistula. For diagnosing H type of fistula, it is a bit difficult and you need fluoroscopy to diagnose this accurately. But in other all the cases, it can be diagnosed through a diagnostic clinical test. So in this test, what happens that a stiff number 10 or 12 rubber catheter or Ryle's tube is passed into the pharynx of the baby through mouth, and a characteristic resistance is felt as the catheter gets arrested in the atretic upper pouch. A soft feeding tube or a catheter should not be used because a soft feeding tube or a catheter may coil in the dilated upper pouch and you may miss the diagnosis. Apart from this, a lateral chest X-ray with catheter in place will also give an idea of the gap between the upper and the lower pouches. So this is a diagnostic clinical test. So apart from this, usually radiography or X-ray is used to diagnose this esophageal atresia or tracheoesophageal fistula. So the first is plain radiograph. In plain radiograph, you can see the nasogastric tube is curled in the proximal esophagus. So there is curling of the nasogastric tube in the dilated proximal esophagus, which is the suggestive of esophageal atresia. Apart from this, there will be proximal esophagus stump may be distended with air, particularly in type A and C, and there will be presence of air in the stomach and the bowel in the setting of esophageal atresia. You can see that is there is gas is seen distally in the gastric cavity, indicating the tracheoesophageal fistula. So there is gaseous distension is there. Apart from this, there may be hyperinflated lungs. So if there is an aspiration is there, so you can find the areas of consolidation and ateclasis due to recurrent aspiration pneumonia. So in some few cases, you may require fluoroscopy, particularly in H type of fistulas, which are very difficult to diagnose with plain radiographs. So you require contrast salo studies. So barium is usually the contrast medium of choice, and ionic iodinated contrast medium should not be used. So this is a fluoroscopy image of this H type of fistula, tracheoesophageal fistula. As you can see, this is the trachea and this is the esophagus, and there is a communication which looks like an H alphabet. So for the diagnosis of this type of tracheoesophageal fistula, you require fluoroscopy. And as you know that this polyhydramnios was a risk factor for this tracheoesophageal fistula. So antenatal ultrasound you may find polyhydramnios in mother, and in some cases you will find a distended proximal blind ending esophagus in the intrauterine fetus. In few reserved cases, you may also require CT scan and virtual bronchoscopy, particularly in those conditions where there is long segmented atresia, and for the management of this condition you may require a staged operation. So CT and virtual bronchoscopy is reserved for some long segmented atresia cases. Now, regarding the treatment, you have to understand that the therapy of this esophageal atresia is mainly of performing a surgery. So the therapy of esophageal atresia must take into account the maturity and weight of the baby, besides the presence of lung infection and associated anomalies. So there is an criteria known as Waterstone's criteria as a guide for this treatment. So this Waterstone's classification, it categorizes the TEF based on the maturity and comorbidities into three types: category A, B, and C. So if the neonate's age weight is more than 2500 grams, so it is category A. The baby can undergo surgery at any time. So if the neonate's weight is around 1800 to 2500 gram and there is associated pneumonia or any other congenital anomalies, then there should be a short-term delay and it needs stabilization treatment before the commencement of surgery. In type C, if the baby's weight is less than 1800 grams and there is associated severe pneumonia or congenital anomalies, particularly vater and vatrial. So in this long standing cases, long atretic segment is there, so it requires staged repair. So these are the basic criteria known as Waterstone's criteria. So based on that, so you have to focus on four things. Number one is maturity, weight of the baby, presence of lung infection or lung infections, and if there is any associated anomalies. So what are the surgical priorities? So there are three surgical priorities. Number one, disconnection of the fistula. Number two, prevention of the salivary pooling. Third one is establishing esophageal continuity. So these are the three surgical priorities, and the surgery is performed through a right thoracotomy. And in selected cases, a staged approach is usually adopted. Now, regarding the prognosis, it has to be understood that depending on the weight of the baby and associated anomalies and the time elapsed before the treatment has been started, the prognosis depends upon these three factors. That is, number one is weight, number two associated anomalies, number three time elapsed before the treatment has been started. So based on three factors, the prognosis of the tracheoesophageal fistula depends. So if all the factors are favorable, the survival rate is over 80%. So a survival rate of 80% can be achieved if all the factors are favorable. So in a recent advancement, the surgery is being done now by thoracoscopic approach. This thoracoscopic approach minimizes the morbidity of open thoracotomy and it also facilitates earlier recovery. So there is a faster recovery with this approach. So with this we come to an end. Thanks for watching. Do like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much.